4 weeks remain, and the title race between Jack Hickman, Glock, Matt Tibbos and Aiden Griffiths continues to hot up. But it's a good job they're not all meeting at Roy's house, because Roy doesn't know how to turn the heating on. Returning tonight is Cliffy. Remember him. With 2 wins already from just 6 races, the Williams driver is set to play a decisive part in which way the championship is decided. The dial is well and truly turned up, something Roy doesn't know how to do with his heating. Track temperatures are high as we head to the United States and Mexico, the first of 2 double headers over in the Americas. Roy won't need to worry about turning up the heating here. It's already pretty hot in this part of the world. So it's America and Mexico tonight. 2 fantastic races to come as this TGP1 title decider gets ever closer to its climax. Glock, Jack Hickey, Aiden Griffiths and Matt Tibbos all in this title fight. And at the moment, 3 of them are in the top 4 in qualifying. The front 2 rows of the grid. This is going to be a thrilling final 4 weeks of the season. You do not want to miss all the action that we've got coming your way between now and mid-November. So qualifying here with now just 3 minutes of the session remaining. It's Glock who's quickest with a 1:31.1, a full 4/10 quicker than Jack Hickey, the championship leader. Down the man's third with Aiden Griffiths 4th, just behind him, but still 7/10 adrift of Glock. We've got Roy and Phil on the 3rd row. Roy looking for a strong result following a very poor couple of races last time out, spinning and crashing out in both races. Something I don't think I've ever seen Roy do before. But you can say the Red Bulls leading the way in the Constructors' Championship. Will they today be extending their lead, because at the moment only have 1 driver. Alfa Romeo only have 1 driver, but Alistair needs to get himself right up there towards the front end of the grid, because it looks like Glock will be scoring good points for Haas regardless of whether he has a teammate here or not with him. So as Alistair comes round to finish his lap behind him, Aiden will start his lap. Both Red Bulls giving each other a smart tow here. Alistair crosses the line and goes into P6. And now Aiden will start to take advantage of the tow from his brother. Can he find the time he needs to get up there on the front row of the grid? He needs to find 3:10 if he's to do so. But all the drivers are now back out on track and ready to do their final laps in this qualifying session. Still 4 drivers yet to set a lap. Kong Hoffner, who has returned from the dead following his scary incident in Russia 2 weeks ago. We've got Cliffy back for the first time in 4 weeks. Cena and CJ also yet to set laps in the session, but they're both on laps at the moment. In fact, Cena is back in the pit, so Cena will not be setting a lap time in this session. Let's see then what those can do at the front. We've got Glock, Jack, Dan, Aiden and arguably Roy all thinking they'll have a chance of pole position here. Let's see though who it's going to go to. It's going to be Aiden that finishes his lap first. The Red Bull driver finding time, but how much? The first sector was alright. The second sector needs to be clean and smooth. He just needs 600ths to go ahead of Dan, but he's going to need 310s to go clear of the Aston Martin. Jack Hickey, championship leader, the first time he's ever led the championship in TGP1, and Aiden is indeed finding time. He's 500ths up. It's not quite good enough to get him ahead of Down the Man, but it is getting him ever closer to getting himself ahead of the Alpine driver. The Scot, who's looking to get back-to-back Constructors titles, needs a strong result here. Both Red Bulls need to score well. We've got a spinner in turn 1. Looks like one of the Alpine drivers will not be improving on their lap time. It could well be Cliffy, who's yet to set a lap time in this session. Round the final corner comes Aiden Griffiths. Where could he go? The Red Bull driver crosses the line and goes into 3rd. He just misses out on Jack Hickey's time, who is finding a 10th himself out there on circuit. We've also got Glock improving. Down the man's finding time. But let's go with Jack Hickey, who's going to be the first of these big 3 title contenders to set a lap. A final lap in this qualifying session. The drivers are now completing their runs. Mr. Chiapelli starts outside the top 10. Ollie Holt on his debut down in 14th. Cena will not be setting a lap time. Mayor Quimby, a very respectable qualifying for him. Only a second off the pace of the leaders and into P10 at the moment. Now will Jack Hickey get a bit of a tow here or a distraction maybe from Ollie Hart? Ollie Hart, of course, is out of this session. So Jack Hickey will want that Alpha Tauri to get out of the way as soon as he can. Maybe it's his AI. And Jack Hickey has invalidated, so he is not going to be improving. It looks like Glock is going to take pole position here. It has been some season from Glock, but somehow the fastest driver, arguably, isn't even leading the championship. So Roy stays 5th, Court's in 6th. What's going on there? Court's clearly handed his controller to his older, sexier brother. In fact, no, younger, sexier brother. I don't know, now this sounds terrible. Back to the action here in TGP1. Can Glock put himself even further ahead before Down the Man has a time to respond? A 1:30.8, that's 7 tenths quicker than anyone else. Unless Down the Man can find something. TGP1's most famous pole sitter, not that I mention it, Dan the Man crosses the line, only goes fourth. What can Phil Bardwell do? He's 31.9 seconds down after the middle sector, so he's not going to be doing much with that lap time. Can CJH get himself into the front six? He'll want to be ahead of Court. He'll be pretty embarrassed if he's still behind the Dutch driver. Is he going to get himself onto the third row of the grid? He doesn't. He stays ninth. Owen Quemby dives into the pit lane, and that concludes your qualifying here in America. So the real shock is that Isaac is back in TGP. He makes his long-awaited return. He will be starting P6 on Court's PSN.
Isaac would have put it on pole.
Now that is one of the most convincing qualifying laps I've seen in TGB1 for quite some time. You don't even see that with Softy. And if Glock needed to respond in the championship race, he's doing just that by setting a qualifying time that is 7/10 quicker than the championship leader, Jack Hickey. Wow, what a statement from Glock. If he can get that car to the finish, and it looks like he probably should, he's very stable around this tight, twisty, snaky circuit here at Texas. And look at that, Aidan Griffin's where he needs to be. 7/10 off the pace, but still good enough for P3. That is Glock's. Only his 6th pole of the season. Of course, got poles back in Bahrain and Portugal early in the season. Then took a few in Austria, Hungary and Belgium. That's his 6th pole of the season. We had Glock take 2 poles in a row. Jack Hickman take 2 in a row. Dan the Man take 2 in a row. Can Glock now also get another 2 in a row?
Guess we'll find out.
I guess we will find out in about half an hour's time. If you're watching this on demand, then feel free to just skip half an hour and see if I was right or not. Hello, Future Dom. But we are here.
SkyQ customer.
SkyQ customer. We heard there was a 17% chance. Oh, I haven't gone on.
I was going to say, press the red button. Remember, press the red button for a race recap.
Fucking hell. Well, welcome to Texas. 17% chance of rain, so not very high odds here. But anything can happen in TGB1. Anything can happen. Matt Tibboz and Kieran will be joining us for the second race. They were not able to make it for the first, but they'll be back with us for Mexico in around about half an hour's time. But who is going to be leading the championship after this race? Can Jack Hickey remain in front of his title rival? The gap's so close, but they're both on the front row here at COTA in the final 4 weeks of the season. It's the title contenders right at the front. Lights on, lights off here at the Circuit of the Americas. And what a start it is from Roy further back in P5. Already dicing with the Red Bull and Alpine for third. And look at this, Jack Hickey up the inside of Glock, and he takes the lead of the race. Glock down to second, but can he get the switch back? Go around the outside. Estamont, he's got good traction, good speed. They're going side by side, the 2 title contenders. They need to keep it clean, keep it smart, and Glock retakes the lead of the American Grand Prix, takes the position straight back again. Roy is up to P4. He's ahead of the Williams and the Alpine. Dan the Man's dropped back a couple of places here early on in this race, but Glock crucially staying clear of Hickman. Aiden into third, Roy into fourth, and Dan the Man down to 6th. And only now ahead of Court, who's P7. We've got a spinner in the background. Looks like it's Jake Davis. Both Ferraris now 14th and 17th. Not where they need to be in this race. But can Phil Bardwell get clear of Jovial Manatee? They're side by side. As they come down this long straight, you can see all the cars weaving to get out of each other's tow. Roy's going side by side with Phil for P4. Can he get back through on the Williams driver? Phil's made an excellent start to this race, hasn't he? Looks like Glock is safe from Jack Hickey. And Phil Bardwell should take Roy. Roy's going to still be there. Needs to be careful with Dan the Man right behind him. As further back, we see Luca now ahead of Court. Court appears to be back on the controller because he's back slow again. But Phil and Roy continuing this epic battle. Oh, sorry, Dan and Roy. And looks like behind them we've got the Mercedes and Court trying to join in on that too. Mr. Giapelli's gone wide, lost the place, I think. And you can see Dan the Man and Court going side by side. The 2 Alpine drivers need to be careful not to bang wheels here. They're fighting for 6th and 7th. And it is Dan the Man who takes the position from his teammate, but Court's still there. Won't let him go. They're side by side. There's no team rules here. Dan the Man has the inside. The Mercedes in the background tries to go in between the 2 of them. They're still side by side down to turn 1. This is brilliant racing from the 2 Alpines. Dan the Man appears to have the edge. He'll have the inside, and Luca Chiapelli can get both of them if he's late on the brakes here. He needs to be careful and not to have any sort of incident. Mr. Chiapelli is through into P7 and Court ahead of both of them.
My God, I got mugged there.
That was amazing.
Oh, what happened there?
Well, Mr. Chiapelli and Dan the Man already with time penalties in this race. Oh my God, there's a spider. Hang on. Not anymore, there's not. You know, it just claws down from the roof like a little small baby one. Well, that was a bad mistake from the spider because there now is no spider. Let's have a quick look at some of the detail in the opening lap of this race as the Alfa Romeo of CJH gets very close to Dan the Man. He'll go to the left of the Alpine driver. CJH making his way through the field up a place from P9. And we've got Court and Luca going side by side again. These drivers all fighting for position on the early laps here as Glock now starts to extend his lead over Jack Hickey. 1 second is the advantage just outside DRS range as we see Aiden still clear in third. Phil Bargewell sticking with him in fourth, and already now a train back to P5. Manatee 2.5 seconds adrift of the leading quartet and Court, Chiapelli, CJH, Dan the Man, Alistair, Kong, Jack, Cliffy and Owen and Ollie Hart all at the back of this train as Glock sets another fastest lap, as we saw in the background. One of the Alfa Romeos going very wide and going very wide again at the final corner. CJH will be picking up a penalty anytime soon if he's not careful, because he keeps running wide. We've seen Mr. Chiapelli go for a move up on the inside to turn one. Will he do it again this time round? A bit too far back. But Jovial Manatee and Court fighting each other. What is this, a crossover episode? It's very GT Sport, isn't it? Court and Jovial Manatee are fighting for 5th and 6th. I'm sure they'll be fighting for 1st and 2nd in 2 months' time. As going very wide is Mr. Chiapelli. CJH will take the inside position, take the position. He goes P7. Dan the Man will look to do the same. Mr. Chiapelli all out of shape in this middle part of the track. You get one corner wrong, and unfortunately for you then, the rest of the track is going to be just as bad. And we've got now the Alpine. Oh, and this is going to be brilliant stuff from Dan the Man. He'll try and get through on the Mercedes driver. Mr. Chiapelli trying to defend the position. He's already going 3 at the start of this race. And for now, he's able to keep the Alpine behind him. But Alistair and Kong have joined the fight and want to get through as soon as they possibly can. Dan the Man will go to the right of Mr. Chiapelli. They're side by side. Mr. Chiapelli gives him as little room as he possibly can. He'll try to brake later as well and allow Dan to not go round the outside. Mr. Chiapelli does just that. Good defensive driving. And he holds on to P8 as Alistair still in 10th. Needs to get some good points, but also needs to be patient with his teammate Aiden in P3. Red Bull is still on for a good points haul and would actually outscore Haas and Alfa Romeo. Mr. Chiapelli's going to lose it if he's not careful. There he goes, lost the back end, and Dan the Man now through into P9. Alistair will try to get back ahead of the Mercedes driver. Mr. Chiapelli, despite that mistake, has still gained 2 places in this race. Can he get back through on Dan the Man again? He makes a very early call for the pit stops at the end of lap 4. He goes through as Mr. Chiapelli once again picks up another time penalty in this race.
I just don't have any grip. I'm struggling so much.
Yeah, same.
8 different teams in the top 8. Glock continues to lead a second clear of Jack Hickey. Jack Hickey not allowing him to get too far ahead despite being outside the DRS. He is able to set quicker times than he was able to do in qualifying. Glock's pace not as formidable in the race. Plenty of battles behind that train for P5, but we're now on board with Phil Bargewell. Can he get Aidan Griffins for P3? The Williams driver hunting down the Scot. Aidan Griffin still in this title fight, the top 3 in the championship, top 3 in this race, but of course Matt Tibos not here for the opening round of tonight. Not good for him. Can Phil Bargewell now with DRS, the slipstream, the bit of Urs extra, get through on Aidan Griffins? He's getting closer. This is the closest he's been all race. Aidan will defend that inside. Phil Bargewell will try to go around the outside. These two need to be careful not to make any sort of contact. Behind them we've got Court battling with Manatee. There's so many battles on track. We need picture in picture here. You can see Manatee defending for his life ahead of the Alpine and the Alfa Romeo. CJH is going to try to get both of them around the outside, as was the pace deficit between Manatee and CJH. Aidan did manage to stay clear of Phil Bargewell this time round. Will any of those choose to pit at the end of this lap and go on to fresh tyres with Dan the Man, having just done that, and now on medium tyres to the end of the race and at the back of the field? Of course, just 2 attempts drift to Manatee. All these leaner runners are on the soft tyres. Phil Bargewell does indeed come into the pits. You can see no one else doing the same. CJH very close to Court, looking to get through, but Court thankfully has the DRS himself, so we'll try to get that little bit of advantage to stay clear of the Alfa Romeo. Will CJH go for a move round the outside into turn 1? He brakes a lot later. Court will defend that inside, but CJH is still there. He runs wide, and Court keeps the position as Luca Chiapelli in the background races Alistair Bain side by side. Alistair Bain looks like he might take P7 ahead of the Mercedes driver, and he's done just that. So Alistair moving his way up through the field. Yes, Dan and Phil have pitted, but Alistair is now a net P9, so gaining a few places from where he started this race. CJH looking for another chance to get Court. He may even do it before the DRS. Court breaks very late there, almost into the back of Manatee, the AlphaTauri driver. Oh, Manatee's round! Manatee's round for the 3rd race in a row. He's in the wars. He's spun round. It was all looking so good for the AlphaTauri. That's not what he needed behind him. We've got Ollie and Jake fighting for P13 and P14, but we go back to the front because CJH is now behind Alistair Bay, and the fact they're going side by side still. Alistair through on the Alfa Romeo. CJH runs very wide, picks up a time penalty. I'm sure he'll appeal that after tonight. Alistair Bain is still side by side with CJH. Needs to be very careful here. CJH, of course, has had a few incidents earlier on in this season. Alistair, though, is doing very wise, very respectful driving here, and still, they're still side by side. And the Aston Martin and Red Bull. The Alfa Romeo, sorry. I'll get there 1 week. Alistair up the inside. They're going to be very close. They're going to make contact. Oh, just about avoids it. And Alistair will be relieved to see that he has dived into the pit lane. Oh, there's a spinner. Oh, CJH spun in the pit lane and respawned onto the track. And now he's dropped behind Kong, Mr. Chiapelli, and Alistair Bay. And CJH is not going to be happy with that one. That's not what he needed now behind Kong. Oh, no, he's spun round again. CJH just spun it too hard. Didn't see what happened, but he's gone round. That's not the race he needed. He tried to dive into the pits, but it wouldn't let him. And now he's down in P12 with a pit stop still to make. Alfa Romeo not having a very good race here. We've got Ollie all over the back for Jake, trying to get that position 10 from him into the top 10. Of course, Ollie yet to make a stop in this race, but if he can get through here on JD, you can see Glock actually having to fight his way through on Manatee. Glock will need to clear Manatee as soon as he possibly can. I think he should do it very easily. Of course, he's got the DRS, fresher tyres. It will all come to him now down this long straight. Manatee might actually give Glock a bit of an advantage here because Glock will get the extra speed down this straight. Manatee will be harmless to defend, surely. Jack Hickey will dive into the pits this time, we believe. Manatee, will he defend the position? He stays on the racing line, doesn't make it too hard, but that does mean Glock has to go offline to this corner, and therefore might lose a tenth or two that he gains from the slipstream effect. So Jack Hickey leading from Aiden and Alistair, the two rebels stuck together. Got to be careful that there's a safety car VSC. They don't both pit at the same time.
Okay, you pit.
So Jack Hickey stays out, as does Aiden. Alistair Bay, and looks like he is going to pit this time round. Glock still now in clean air, able to keep setting lap after lap, and in front of him Jack Pearson dives into the pit lane. We've also got Alistair and Kong in the garages as well. So now Kong Hoffner drops back down the order, and Glock up into what will be position number 5. The top 4 still to pit in this race. Cliffy making great progress from the very back of the field. Of course, Cliffy's won 2 races from only 6 starts, so he is well and truly a force to be reckoned with. Unfortunately for him, has missed the last few weeks and is therefore out of championship contention. Glock's a few tenths down on this first sector than his previous best. We're not expecting any rain. There was a chance, but the clouds do appear to be holding out. We should see no rain in the remainder of this race. We approach half distance here at COTA. Jack Hickey's lead is 4.7 over Aiden, looking pretty good, and the gap to Glock is about 16.5 seconds. So when Jack Hickey does pit, he would come out behind all of Roy, JD and Ollie, and potentially Phil Bardwell if he's not careful, because Phil, who has pitted, that gap's coming down 22.5 seconds. The Williams driver will want to try and get through on Jack Hickey, but Jack Hickey for now staying out, waiting for his chances, hoping that maybe come the end of the race he'll pull some time back, or maybe he's waiting for a safety car or VSC. Take advantage of that. Let's see if Jack Hickey does come into the pits this time round. No, he stays out for another lap, so he's not in any rush here to come in. I think Aiden might do the same as well. Just try and make sure that you're there to take opportunity should any such incident happen. But Aiden does indeed pit this time round. Glock takes another half a second out of Jack Hickey's lead, and Phil Bardwell also sort of sticking around the same time window. Who out there is fighting at the moment? We've got Court and Down, the 2 Alpines, the closest drivers on the circuit. We've got Ollie all over the back of Jake too. Jack Pearson fighting Owen for the final points position, P14 and P15. Owen might actually gain some places later on in the race with a few drivers having picked up time penalties. Down the man, really disappointed to be down behind his teammate. I mean, no one wants to be second in their team, but to be second behind Court is a pretty poor statement. Let's see if Ollie Holt can get JD5. These two have been battling all race, and the Ferrari driver just about holding on. Ollie is trying to get through on the Ferrari driver. He can't quite find the room to do so. They're still side by side. Ollie Holt can't quite do it and just about stays behind JD. JD, of course, won earlier in the season at Baku. What a race that was. What a shot. He's a former champion, but to see him at the front now is quite the surprise. And Ollie Holt stuck behind the Ferrari. All these drivers in the top 5 other than Glock yet to pit in this race, as Glock now just 15 seconds adrift of Jack Hickey. But the good news for Jack is that Cliffy is going long and may well hold up Glock later in this race. Aidan Griffiths is behind Phil Bardwell. Of course, Aidan was ahead before the stops, but Phil now ahead of the Red Bull. So Aidan will get 12 points if he finishes P4 come the end of the race. Jack Hickey does finally now make his stop from this race. Will Cliffy also choose to come in and fit the softs to the very end? Ollie Holt has managed to get the tyres very far. He's still on the soft rubber and still yet to make a stop in this race, but Glock goes through on Jack Hickey. He takes P2 from him. Jack Hickey is actually not as far back as I thought he would be. It's only going to be a few seconds, but Jack Hickey now on much fresher tyres can start to hunt down the Haas driver again. 2.5 seconds of difference as Aidan Griffiths and Phil Bardwell going side by side into turn 1. Aidan needs that position. He needs the podium to keep his slim title hopes alive, also to keep the constructors' chances looking good, because at the moment Glock would score 25 for Haas. Aidan and Alistair in what is really a net P3 and P7. We'll be looking for a very similar points haul. Both Owen and Jack are now up to P11 and P12. They're all fighting about with Mr. Chiapelli and Kong Hoff, and they're all together looking pretty good. But let's go back to that fight because it's very close by the looks of it. You can see Owen all over the back of Mr. Chiapelli, who's all over the back of Kong Hoffner. Kong, who has returned from the dead. He crashed out and died in Russia 2 weeks ago, but he's back here in America. Good to see. CJH is outside of the points positions. He's down in 15th. Another 4-car battle from 13th down to 16th. The two AlphaTauris fighting with the Ferrari and the Alfa Romeo. But can Mr. Chiapelli finally get through on Kong Hoffman? Needs to be careful. But here comes Mayo Quembe up the inside of the Mercedes. Can Owen get both of them into this corner? Very late break, and Luca's going to tag Kong, is he? Oh, Luca will surely have to get that position back to Kong Hoffner, who's forced off the road. Indeed he does. And now Mr. Chiapelli has to be careful from Owen, who's right next to him. They're side by side, almost band wheels, and over to round. Oh. Owen spun it. The Ferrari lost the back end, and now he's round and now down to P12 behind Roy, behind CJH, behind everyone. In fact, he's last on the road, and this brings back flashbacks to when Chris Johnson kept binning it on the TGV2 title to side. Owen finally manages to get it the right way around, and he continues his battle for P16. So Jack Hickey about 2.5 seconds back from Glock. We've got Aidan and Phil still fighting for P3 and P4. Both Court and Dan have time penalties. So Alistair could very well take P5 here. That would be a great points haul for Red Bull. At the moment, Red Bull would score 25, the same as Haas. If Alistair can just stay within the positions of Dan and Court and not get a time penalty himself as well. Of course, Jack Hickey.
26.
Of course, I'm assuming Glock's got the fastest lap then. Which would mean that as things stand, the championship would be dead level. Glock, 8 points adrift of Jack, would take the fastest lap and would also therefore take the lead the championship on countback. And unfortunately, Alistair, as I said, don't get a time penalty. He's just caught a corner and now has a time penalty and now must pass Dan and Alistair on track. Sorry, past Court, can't pass himself. Yellow flag further adrift. Ollie Holt looks like he's spun round as Alistair tries to go round the outside of Dan. He needs his places. The Alpines are not making it easy for him. Court still ahead of Dan in P5. Court really seems to like this track, doesn't he? Dan the man under extreme pressure from AlphaTauri's Alistair Bain. My brain is muddled today. Red Bull's Alistair Bain. Can the Red Bull driver finally get through on the two Alpines? Aidan's doing his job by sticking ahead of Phil Bardwell. Because I don't think Jack Hickey's going to call back any time on Glock. He's got a few laps fresher tyres, but the gap still very much over 2 seconds. And here comes Cliffy on the back of Alistair now to get through and take P7 in this race. He may wait to see what Alistair does with down the man. Alistair's going to go down the inside of the Alpine driver, is he? Cliffy breaks later, will try to get both of them into turn 1. Cliffy almost spins it, and Alistair sort of saves him because his tyres touched and kept the Williams driver facing the right way. Of course, Cliffy doesn't necessarily have to pass all these 3 cars. He can just hold position because Kong's much further back behind him. And the gap ahead of Court to Phil is about 6 seconds. So I don't think Cliffy's going to get much inroads unless he passed all 3 cars pretty much straight away. But you can see Cliffy definitely the quicker driver as he tries to get through. And Alistair Bain, who himself is quicker than the 2 Alpines in front of him. But that's a good run from Cliffy. Can he go down the inside or will he wait for a better opportunity with the DRS? Unfortunately for him, both Dan and Alistair are going to get the same rewards because they are within a second of the car in front. But here comes Cliffy. It's going to be Premier League versus Championship. Round the outside on the racing line. Cliffy takes the position from Alistair up into P7. And if Alistair's smart, he may just wait to see what Dan and Court do, who go side by side into the corner. They make slight contact. They almost both spin round, and now Cliffy will try and get both of them, I think. Court goes wide, taps Dan, and Cliffy up the inside of the pair of them. Court needs to be careful to give him room. Cliffy picks up a time penalty in the process, and now everyone from 5th down to 12th has a time penalty. And that's contact from Dan and Cliffy. Just about keeping the right way round. Cliffy clearly the faster car on the faster tyres. And finally through on Dan the man, who will now be under pressure from Alistair Bain behind him.
Didn't
So
expect to go for it. Wow.
Well, into Team Wars at Alpine. Will we see Cliffy get caught straight down on the run up to turn 1? He looks much quicker, doesn't he? Court might not fight it too hard. His race is not necessarily with the Williams driver. Cliffy with the much quicker car up the inside takes the position, but what will we see from Dan the Man and Alistair behind? Dan the Man's still ahead of Alistair, but the two of them are going side by side for about the 15th time in this race. Alistair Bain back through in P7. Dan the Man almost loses it in the background. Kong Hoffner is now behind Mr. Giapelli, who has picked up a 3-second time penalty. So has he cut the corner to gain the position? Will he again have to give the place back? We'll see what the stewards make of that after the race. If that was the case, CJH still now back into the points positions, 3/10 adrift of Jovial Manatee. There's still a massive train behind what is Kong Hoffner. JD is up into P11 ahead of Jack Pearson. He ran very wide there. CJH all over Manatee himself, trying to pressure Jack Pearson, who's trying to get through on the first leading Ferrari. Owen outside of the points, not looking like he's going to do much in this race. CJH is going to go down the inside of Manatee, try to get the AlphaTauri. Unfortunately for him, just ran out of room, ran out of space, and wasn't able to get through on the leading AlphaTauri in this race. We'll have another chance here. Look how close all these cars are as they come down to the inside of the corner, and Manatee still trying to make his way through the field. Of course, Manatee has the pace here, but unfortunately for him, spun round earlier on and finds himself drifting now with Mr. Chiapelli, JD, Kong Hoffner, Jack Pearson. And this isn't it. We've got Ollie join this fight very soon, but Manatee up the inside of Jack Pearson takes P12 and will now start to try and make a bit of a gap to CJH, who is also coming through this field.
Is anybody else really struggling with tyres? It feels like I'm drifting around every corner.
Cliffy takes the fastest lap, which would take the point away from Glock. In fact, the lead's down to less than a second. What's going on here? Glock's lead is down to a second. Jack Hickey has found a second and a half. I'm not quite sure where from. Does Glock have any sort of damage on that? Has he made a mistake? It looks fine to me. I'm not quite sure why that gap's come down then, but Hickey has found some pace, and with Cliffy taking the fastest lap of the race, Jack Hickey would lead the championship still, but by only a single point. If he can take the win from Glock, then he suddenly would lead. So that would change. We've got Kong Hoffner out of the race. He spun round. What happened there, Mr. Chiapelli?
He just tried to go up the inside, threw the S's on me. There was no man's game.
Well, Kong Hoffner out of this race. Glock's lead is down to 7/10. Jack Hickey has found some serious pace here. I'm not quite sure where this has come from. He's got to be careful not to make any sort of mistake. I guess he can afford to make a mistake because Aiden's 10 seconds adrift in P3. But the two men leading this championship, it's going to be a point between them as things stand. They're giving us a brilliant show. I said Cliffy would find it hard to catch Phil. He looks like it's going to be the case because he's still 3.5 seconds adrift off the Williams driver. And we must keep an eye on Phil Bardwell because he's still just 3/10 behind the Red Bull of Aidan Griffins. Red Bull on for a good points haul at the moment, but has on for an even better one. We've got Core, Alistair, down the man, all fighting. Alistair's managed to get through on Core, but they're going side by side still. And Alistair looks like may have let Core through, or went wide. Got a yellow flag in the sector 3.
Yeah,
looks like CJH.
Did you see that big lag spike there, Core? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Alistair passed them and then suddenly he was up behind them again.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have to go back to the front here. The gap is now 5/10 of a second. This is the closest Jack Hickey's been. It looked like Glock was going to walk this race. Took pole by 7/10. Well, the distance in this race is already less than the pole margin. Aidan has a 3-second time penalty. Not what he needed because Cliffy's also gaining time on Phil Bardwell. The gap now under 3 seconds. Can Jack Hickey get through on Glock? Can he apply more pressure and give the Haas driver a penalty? Both drivers have 2 warnings in this race, I believe. So, if either of them gets one more, it would decide which way this race goes. But look at this, the gap's 5/10, 4/10, 3/10, 2/10. Jack Hickey with a move on Glock down the inside. The championship contenders, and it's Hickey who's through, and he's made the move through on Glock.
Wow.
Fantastic stuff. And Glock now down to P2, already a second adrift. Jack Hickey has found some serious pace in the latter stages of this race, and the championship leader, who looked like the gap was going to be down to nothing, is now going to extend that lead to 15 points. Instead of being 1 ahead, it's 15. It's a 14-point swing, and Glock's really struggling out there. His tyres are gone. Jack Hickey chose to pit later. He knew something of it, and he's going to take the win here. We've got to go back with Aiden and Phil. They're sighting for 3rd and 4th. Cliffy will get Aiden. As you know, Cliffy's also got a penalty, so he's fine. Jack Hickey wins the American Grand Prix. What a race. Glock takes P2. Where did that come from, Hickey? It's his 3rd win of the season. Aidan Griffiths will hold on to P3, but he'll finish 4th on the road because Phil Bardwell will take that podium from him with a penalty for Aidan Griffiths. Alistair Bain will try and get through on court if he can. He's got down the man attacking him behind. The Red Bull driver's only going to finish P7, I think. I know he takes P6. Court had an additional penalty, but with Haz only scoring 18 points, suddenly it's not so bad for Red Bull, who themselves score 21 points from this race. So JD finishes P10. We've got Ollie and CJH fighting for 13th and 14th, the final points positions. It's going to be CJH that takes P12. Mr. Chiavelli down to P14 with his time penalties, and Owen Quemby, in his first race back in TGB1 in quite some time, is currently rolling around in P15. Phil Bardwell back on the podium. Your first podium as a 43-year-old. How does it feel?
Fuck off.
Well, that's a fantastic... What a race! Jack Hickey came from nowhere. Glock was dominated, had it in control. And suddenly, in the closing laps, Jack seemed to find a second in each of the last 3 laps and then passed his title rival. Went through. Brilliant defensive driving. And the Aston Martin takes a huge step towards this championship. What a fight we have on our hands here. It looks like it's going to be a 2-horse race between Hickey and Glock as we enter the final 3 weeks. Because I think Ada Matt Tibos will now be a little too far back. Driver of the day was Cliffy.
What a race.
Really difficult. Well done, Cord. That was a brilliant result. That was.
Yeah.
I apologise if it was a bit aggressive. I just had a load of like ERS deployments and just thought I'd go for it.
I didn't. I saw you coming, but I didn't quite expect it because you had 6 seconds of penalties.
Yeah.
But oh man, it was some racing. Nice.
That was a hell of a... Dan, you got mugged at the start, then got with the wrong group.
In every single wrong possible flip position on the track.
Any penalties?
Well, Cliffy did take the fastest lap in that race. Alistair recovered to finish P6 with Court an excellent 7th ahead of his teammate Dan the Man, the all-time leading pole sitter with TTB1. Not that I mentioned it before. Roy recovered to P9 in the end. Roy does like gaining time from a penalty, but this time actually only gained 1 place. So it was only Jake that he went ahead. Jack Pearson, Jack Pearson had 12 seconds worth of time penalties. Oh dear, no wonder. I didn't realise. Ollie gets only 13th. Mr. Chiapelli with 18 seconds worth of time penalties. P14. That's probably more seconds worth of penalties than he scored points this season. 14th was Luca. 15th was Owen. Kong Hoffner scored nothing for 16th, but he is alive, so there is some reward at least. But after that race then, the championship lead is up to 15 points. And a few comments in the chat. At one point, Aidan was running second, and Andy said, just like Inverness. Wet Lemons said, great race. CJH enjoyed that one. And Theo Hitman cheering on his brother, of course. And he also called me Don Crofty Smith, probably because I made a lot of mistakes in that race.
Pretty sure Wet Melons is an OnlyFans account.
Wet Lemons, not melons.
Who's an Ellen?
What did he say?
Well done, Aidan. Well, Hell's just unlucky with the penalty. He's probably dead.
Oh well.
I went and had my dinner, that's why I decided after the spin to just put it on pause.
Ah.
Do we have everyone? Or are we waiting for Matt?
Matt and one other person as well, aren't we, apparently?
No, I think the other person showed up. Actually, maybe there's one more.
Oh, indigestion.
Well, that was fun. Why was everyone at the back trying to kill each other? I watched
He did see what it looked like.
I watched Kong Hoffner and fucking Luca trying to lift each other's door after 7 laps. Oh, what the fuck was
And then it looks like, I don't know if
Sorry.
people have been invited, but let's roll.
What happened? What did you say, Jack?
Just you and fucking Kong Hoffner smashing into each other for 7 laps. Oh,
It was Robin racing. Robin racing.
It's not fucking NASCAR.
Well then, Mexican Grand Prix, the second of 2 races tonight. We have 3 weeks to go after this. Of course, next week is Brazil and Canada. We've still got Saudi Arabia and Imola to come. 2 brand new circuits for the TGB series. Neither tracks have ever been raced on. We've had Imola, of course, on F1 2013, but no races took place there in the league. So we'll have a new winner for both of those events.
Did we not do a race?
We did Brands Hatch and RF.
Yeah, it was paid DLC. Do you remember 2 of them were free and the other 2 to pay for?
So Johnny's watching the race. Fucking hell, John.
I love Tourette. I love Tourette.
I did not.
Not that harass.
Was the other one was Esriel, wasn't it?
Yeah,
It's
Esriel
really,
was
yeah.
the other paid one, yeah.
Yeah, Imola and Estoril the paid ones, weren't
Oh
they?
yeah.
And then fucking
Oh, Sean's
and
on
then
a
it
work
was
break.
Brands and Jerez were the free.
I mean, ironically, I got a podium in Jerez, like one of my 2 podiums in F1 2013.
I stayed out of the first stop there and was like, this is a bad idea because it was just, it was carnage. People were sliding, spinning. I was like, oh,
I nearly spun it again at turn 11. Like I just
I want
had
to
no
turn
control.
for this iconic track. Needed.
uh-oh.
Oh yeah!
No, you
What's
got there
that?
eventually. Fucking hell.
I wasn't in that race. I don't.
Yeah, but it's still iconic.
It is.
I was in it for
that's why I eventually
I was in it
got
for 5 seconds and then lost
Oh
both my
no!
legs.
Just don't. I don't want to be near you lot. Oh god.
I mean, if you did already,
I'll
it's not the
come
worst thing,
back.
is it?
Well, he'll come back and my internet will just kill it.
Well,
Better
goodbye,
not
Jake.
be wet. It's
See
better
ya,
not be
Jake.
wet.
It might be the race. I don't remember. Oh.
Bye-bye.
dear.
I'm so happy that's a feature now, though, so people can fucking be.
But now he can't get back in.
Yeah, well, that's not our problem, is it? Oh no. Anyway.
It's a dry race, but sorry, it's a dry qualifier, but is it a dry race? I'll wait to hear from all.
Yes. Well, 1% chance of rain. Which
Okay, so it could rain then for the Mexican Grand Prix. That's the story here. 1% chance of rain.
Alright.
Go that.
It does
Unfortunately,
increase like 10 minutes into the race.
Unfortunately,
10%.
Glock said he wasn't able to compete with Jack Hickman. He says that the limitations of the pad. I don't know if you listen, Softy, but I can confirm. I can confirm, as I have a wheel myself, the wheel definitely finds you time. It's found me about a second. So, well.
Meanwhile, in his fucking basement. No, it's not I'm fake.
Well, I hope Softy's watching the stream with his 2 kids. Of course, we do pray for the kids of Softy. No one should have to grow up with Softy as their stepdad.
Jesus.
We do fear for Softy's kids.
Red flag at Phil's house. Fucking hell.
Well then, Mexican Grand Prix. Owen's raced here a few times, and he has a few memories as well to boast. I think he may have won in TGP 2, but he most famously has an incident in TGP 1 where everyone, of course, infamously lagged on the run down to turn 1.
Also bottled a win here as well in the wet.
Classic Owen. Owen has the record for most number of second place finishes in the TGP League and never having won a race. He's finished second or third about, I think, 20 times,
Have
but
you never won in TGP?
never won.
Nope.
Wow.
I'm really interested what everybody's win levels are for this.
I don't know, just go.
As if you want me
expecting
told, let
anybody
me
to
go.
tell
Then.
me,
I'm on
but-
medium, so just let me go.
Mine might represent something you need
Let's go.
on the sea.
I'll back
The
off
sea?
towards the end.
You got a rudder? I want to need one of them. Fuck me.
If you're, especially if you're a
Keel.
pirate, who are
The Red Bulls are doing toes with each other.
I'm about to toe off with Jack Squared.
I might join the back and show Jack Squared.
Oh, he's on the mediums. I might have to back off a tad.
It's also you, though.
I've backed off too much. Come back, Jack Squared.
Why can you see like through the grandstands in like the middle sector?
So they got bored halfway through building the fucker.
Oh,
shit.
no, please no! Please no!
How are you not out?
Wow. Got away with that one.
How have you not fucking become deceased?
I honestly don't know.
You talking to me, Aiden? No, Darren.
Oh, there's wing. Jesus.
Let's just let everybody through here. Hello, Jack.
Jake was trying to get the clip of CJH to show that the incident was caused by lag, and by doing that, he missed the start of the race and has now been kicked from the lobby by the Go-Master servers. So, not what he needed. Alistair goes quickest with a 1:15.2. Phil Bardwell, 6th drift with a 1:15.8. Just ahead of Jack Hickey. Jack Hickey, a very poor lap time, but I suspect that was on the medium tyres, or he made a mistake on his first run. I went a second and a half adrift. He goes into P5. Who else is out there on laps at the moment? We've got Ollie Hart, of course, in his first night of the season, the AlphaTauri driver. What can he do? Only 4 drivers have set laps in the opening 5 minutes of this session. Very easy to invalidate. I thought for a moment Ollie was about to do just that at that corner, of course. So easy to go off limits around the outside as Glock only goes P4. So the championship contenders, 3rd and 4th. Whether or not this is a wheel or a pad circuit, I'm not too sure, but they'll play a decisive part with Glock fighting for the title on his pad and Jack Hickey fighting for it on his wheel. Matt Tibbos has joined the session. The GOAT, Matt Tibbos, has joined. Let's see if he can get another win this season. Oh, and the phone, someone's phone's ringing. It might be the boiler man. It might be the boiler man for Roy to turn the heating on. Oh no, it's Isaac. Hang on, we're getting a live voice recording of the call that's happening right now. Hey, Cords, thank you for letting me race in the United States for you. I really enjoyed it, but I gotta go back and do some Valachi stuff now, so I better go back. Oh, Ollie Hart's...
Why is he an American GI?
Ollie Hart is pulled off at the side of the circuit. I've never seen that before. Rather than just going off the racing line, he went onto the grass and just parked it. Oh, fantastic. Ollie Hart, welcome to TGB1. Good to have you here. Always good to have entertainment. Of course, Ollie Hart, friends of popular TGB drivers, Pastor and Cena. Sorry, someone was knocking at the door, so I found something fun. So, Alistair, quickest with a 1:15.2. Imagine if he could keep that lap time in this session. Ollie Hart runs wide, but doesn't invalidate. Sorry, I made myself laugh at that Pastor and Cena joke. Alistair Payne, quickest then, 1:15.2, 6/10 quicker than his opposition. Alistair Payne, pole position would be nice, wouldn't it? What's Jack Pearson laughing at?
It's penis. Is that Mercedes? Oh, it's with her.
Let's then go. Core goes second!
Oh god.
Hello.
Not again.
Oh, we're getting a live call from Isaac's phone again. Hey, Cord, thank you for letting me do in that lap time. Next to go for you. Yeehaw! Well, there you go.
What the fuck?
Isaac Ellison, live team radio from Court's mobile phone device.
It's amazing how he must have made that first phone call while doing the live.
That's pretty impressive.
It inspires me.
Aidan Griffins, currently P10 in this session, yet to set a lap time, as has the majority of the field. Still 10 drivers yet to set a lap, including the likes of Cliffy, Matt Tibbos, and of course, everyone's favourite driver, Cena. So it's Aidan Griffin's P10 at the moment, needing to find a lap time on the board. 1:15.2 is currently the quickest of the times we've seen so far. Half a second the difference between Alistair and Court, and Phil Bardwell looking to get in the mix too. Currently on the second row of the grid with Jack Hickey. Glocks down to 6th as Kieran goes up to P5. So it's in a mixed up grid at the moment early on in this qualifying session. Aidan Griffin's a reasonable first sector. a very reasonable second sector. Can he match the time or better? His teammates 1:15.2 is looking good at the moment, like he could be the new pole sitter in this session with still just 10 minutes to go. Down the man goes quick as a 1:14.8. Can Aiden respond now with that time? It's going to be close. I don't think he's going to do it. I think Dan might just have the edge here in Mexico. He does indeed. Aiden goes P3. So he'll be slightly satisfied with that, I think, and especially with his teammate up in P2. We've got Phil Bargewell and Jack Hickey on laps now. Alistair about to set his second time lap in this session. 4 tenths to find. A 1:15.2. 4 tenths adrift. So it's currently Alpines and Red Bulls inside the top 4. But Jack Hickey, championship leader, a 15-point lead in this championship. I can't quite believe that he is actually a real threat for the title. What a popular champion he would be if he could make it stick. And in the first sector, he's quicker than anyone else. In the second sector, he's quicker than anyone else. At the moment, he is going to go right there with Dan the Man. It should be close. He's about a tenth up after the middle sector. But if he can get these final few corners right through the stadium section, the Mexican fans going wild for the Aston Martin driver. Round the final corner to the line. Can he displace Dan the Man from P1? A 1:14.772. He finds 400s, and Mr. Chiapelli is not a fan of Jack Hickman, as Jack Hickman goes quickest with a 1:14.7.
So it's close.
Mayor
Quenby's finding time. Aiden's gone the wrong way on setup, and of course Parfait means he cannot now change that ahead of the race. Aiden needs to focus on a good points haul in the constructors fight. Him and Alistair, fantastic season they've had together. 3rd and 4th at the moment on the grid. Owen goes down into position number 8. Let's see what Glock can do on his time run. Alistair should be crossing the line very soon. We'll see if he can improve on that current 1:15.2. I think he may have invalidated as he returns himself back to the pit. So let's stick with Glock then. He's 15 points adrift of Jack with still 7 races to go in this season. Can he claw back the points he needs? Of course, he could very well lead the championship after this race still if he wins, and Jack Hickey was lower than position 5. Jack Pearson's inside the top 10. Manatee is now up into P6, but Glock is quickest of all in the first sector. Exactly the sort of time he needs to set. So easy to invalidate around this circuit, a bit like the previous race.
1-0 to Atalanta.
Atlanta 1-0 up. Phil Bargewell, of course, famously spun last week when no one was given goal updates. Let's hope that happens again, and Phil scores no points here in Mexico. And Glock is finding some serious pace out there. It's a purple sector 1, it's a purple sector 2, and I suspect this is going to be a very purple sector 3. 1:14.7 is the quickest time so far. Glock looking like he's going to destroy that time, but Glock was on pole by 7 tenths, of course, at the last race, and finished second overall. The Haas driver to the line, a 1:14.772. It's the exact same lap time as Hickey. But for the first time in Codemasters history, it's actually put the driver who said it first ahead of the driver who said it after. So the two leading men in the championship have set the exact same lap time. Incredible. What a season we're having here in TGP1. And join us tomorrow for TGP2, where the 10-man title fight continues.
You want a lap there, Luca?
No, sorry.
Mate, watch it. Tune in tomorrow. There's about 10 men that can still win the title. We've had 10 race winners from 14 rounds. The record is 11 in the league, so can that be beaten?
I love it if I set that same lap as Jack and Glock.
Oh, needed. Jerez 997, very much needed. A 1:14.772. What was the lap that Schumacher don't tell me was a 1:14.772? What did I say, Jerez?
It was 7 something, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, 7 rings a bell. Court, 1:14.772 to beat. Don't suspect Court will get anywhere near that unless he's passed the controller back to his brother. Crosses the line and goes 5th, and we're getting live team radio from the Gillison households. Bear with.
Oh, Court, give me a toe.
Oh, go faster, go faster.
Hey, Court, I'd like to say thanks to Dom Smith for getting me into esports and getting me to where I am. Without Dom Smith, I would not have been a Project Cars champion. Yeehaw. Well, Isaac is very American these days, as we all know. Ever since he went to Veloci, he's become more and more American. Well, down the man, he's going to
G.I. Joe Gillenton.
He's going to get a little bit of a toe.
Needed.
Every time I go into the second sector with those fast corners, I get massive lag spike on my screen, so I might cause a big accident.
That's always promising to hear.
I mean, the frame rate drops massively every time.
I mean, I
Or
know
like-
how it feels to cause a big accident, Kurt. Don't worry about it, it's fine.
But it's all the way till the arrest section again, so
Oh, fuck off!
kind of sucks.
Aiden's out of the session. He's P7. He's not going to be starting any higher than the 4th row of the grid as Matt Tibos goes into 7th to promote Aiden. Down to position number 8 as Down the Man completes his lap and goes even quicker, 2/10. I was just about to say the record that Phil Bardwell holds for the closest ever pole margin was under serious threat, but Down the Man has just given Phil a massive sigh of relief as Down the Man goes 2/10 quicker and takes pole position. I've not mentioned it before, but Down the Man is the all-time leading TGP1 pole sitter. Can he add another pole to his incredible tally? It would be some achievement. He loves it. Down the Man is a big fan. Aiden then P8. Alistair up in P4. Fantastic qualifying for him. Still 4 drivers. JD, Cliffy, Cena and CJH yet to make a stop in this race. Of course, Jake and Cliffy have won races. CJH has come very close. And fan favourite Cena.
Wait, what?
You definitely said stop. You definitely said stop.
You have to make a stop in this
And
race.
Did I say?
He said they've yet to make a stop in this race.
My brain is completely messed up. I think to an old people so.
What did you do last night, Dom?
You know I know. Jack Hickey to the line goes quickest. 3/10 faster. A 1:14.2. He finds more pace on Down the Man's time. Glock is P3 at the moment. Alistair 4th. Corin
I'm
5th.
guessing that was the only one who
Phil,
heard
Tibos,
say-
Manatee, Kieran, Owen, Jack Pearson, Luca, Ollie Holt, JD, Cliffy, Cena and CJH. Still 4 minutes left in this session. But still a long way to go for these drivers. We've still got Glock to go out and set his final lap time. Down the Man and Glock both now back in the pits. They'll need to be quick, get a quick turnaround. Alistair starting his final run in this session. What can the Red Bull driver do? The only remaining Red Bull driver in this qualifying session. JD, Cliffy, Cena and CDH still in the pit lane. They'll need to be quick, get out there and set a lap time as soon as they possibly can. Drivers now starting their final runs. What can Alistair do? Can he get himself ahead of the 2 ahead? Court is no distraction. Alistair would have liked some sort of distant tow, but Court getting straight out of the way, not wanting to help the Red Bull driver. There's a McLaren off in the middle sector. I suspect that might well be Kieran, currently P10, the leading McLaren driver. The yellow flags are now out in sector 2. Alistair's finding time though.
That last sector by Jack is unreal.
Alistair found a 10th in the first sector, about to get his second 10th split very shortly. The Red Bull driver twisting his way through that middle part of the track. Has he found more time? He has another half a 10th. He's 0.141 up on his current quickest lap time, but it's now invalidated, as you can probably guess, by his brother's sigh. One man finding time is Phil Bardwell. He's about to go 4th quickest. He's quicker than Core and Alistair in both the first and middle sectors. The Williams driver's looking faster here. The Jack Hickey will not be improving on that 1:14.2. So it is down to the likes of Dan Glock to improve behind him. Can Alistair go again? Looks like he is going to do one more lap. Phil Bardwell goes up into P4. It's a good time from him. Alistair is indeed going again. Court also out there on a lap. Mr. Chiapelli also on a timed run. CJH, what can he do? He's about to start. He's coming around the final couple of corners now, but let's go with Court, who will get a distant tow again from Down the Man. 2nd and 6th, the Alpines. The Alpines have really turned it up, haven't they, in the last couple of weeks, as Court goes 11 thousandths of a second quicker in the first sector, maybe helped by that slight tow that he got from his teammate, which of course he got also on the previous run. Kieran will not be improving. He starts P11. 3 drivers will not be setting any further laps in this session. In fact, also JD has left it very late, I think. The Ferrari driver, of course, JD has disconnected, so will not be setting a lap time in the session as Court invalidates, and all this hard work is now undone.
Please give me a tow call, please, 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 please.
Yeah. But I'm gonna go again as well, so...
Please, 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 please.
I'm gonna go as well, so I might jump a little bit.
Down the main street.
I wonder if Phil's going to give a tow to Cliffy. Going very slow at that, always ran out of fuel. Unless he's just going preparing to go again. Matt Tibos is out there on a lap. So we've got Matt Tibos, Dan the Man and Glock all out there now on new time laps in order to try and set the fastest time in this session. A 1:14.2 is the time for all of these drivers to beat. Down the man, we suspect, has more time to find. Matt Tibbles has already found a 10 in the first sector, but he's got a full second extra to find if he's to get himself right back at the front of the grid. Matt Tibbles, another fantastic qualifier in TGP1, looking to get another pole position this season to add to his collection of 3. We've got yellow flags in the final sector. Phil Bardwell should still have time to get one more lap in this session. 20 seconds remaining, but it will be Phil Bardwell the last across the line. Matt Tibbles' finding time is invalidated. That's him done, so we turn to Dan the Man, who will be next to go through, who's also validated, and he's round. Dan the Man in a spin. Both, looks like both Alpines have crashed, so his tensions now turn to Glock. It is just going to be Glock that can do something. Cliffy's not finding time, so it is only going to be Glock. 1:14.2. Can he at least get himself onto the front row of the grid if he can't get Jack Hickey? He's absolutely flying, the Haas driver. He's the purple in the middle sector. He's almost 0.2 of a second up. It's not going to be enough to get Jack Hickey, but of course Jack Hickey found all his time in the final sector, so can Glock find the time that the Aston Martin driver was able to find? Round the final couple of corners now, the Haas driver, can he get himself back on pole position for the second time tonight? He goes second, 2,000 quicker than Dan the Man, just about on the front row of the grid, but we've said it in Russia and we'll say it here, position 1 is not necessarily the best place to start for the race.
I should have got the front row there at least.
TJH goes 4th, what a lap ahead of Phil Bardwell. It's just Manatee now left, he's 2/10 up, well, apparently he's 2/10 up, but Roy backs out to make sure that he starts on a fresh set of tyres for the race, and that Aiden starts on a used set. Well,
So
Roy,
I get
thoughts, comments,
massive
concerns?
frame drops in the second sector.
You may be
for
onto something.
fuck's sake.
Fucking tyre, hurry up.
Oh shit. Okay.
Well,
Did Tibos have a shocker on that one?
That was a
only
shot
half
from
tempo.
David De Gea. My God.
well, we had a Luca bingo before tonight of what Luca would get annoyed about in America, and Luca, who annoyed you in America?
I don't know.
Would you say Kong Hoffner maybe?
No, we had good racing, I thought.
Okay, fair enough. Well then, Jack Hickey on pole position, ahead of Glock, Dan the Man, TJH and Phil. Alistair, a very respectable P6 in that Red Bull. Caught Tibos, Mr. Chiapelli and Aiden will start inside the top 10, and Roy tactically qualifying P11 to make sure that he has a fresh set of rubber for this Mexican Grand Prix.
I probably actually could have been 6th if I finished that lap.
Bloody hell.
You're a retard.
I didn't realise how close everyone was.
That's why you look at the timings.
You were like, well, I'm the last car out there.
Yeah, nerd.
Pre-race stretch.
Oh.
Right.
Who the fuck keeps doing that? It's disgusting, man. It's not even funny, it's minging.
Here we go then. Mexican Grand Prix, the second of tonight's 2 races. Of course, we've got another double header in America this time next Tuesday for Brazil and Canada. We've got South and North America. You can see the flags out in Force Hill. 15-point lead Jack Hickey has over his title rival. They once again start on the front row of the grid. But he'll be first after the long run down to turn 1.
Me.
5 wins for Ryan this season, 3 for Jack Hickey. Lights on in Mexico. And it's lights off. We are racing here. It's a reasonable start from the leading 2. Glock straight away looking to cut behind the Aston Martin. It's a clean start from everyone as the Alpine tries to get through on both of the leading 2. But it is Glock and Jack Hickey that go side by side on the run down to turn 1. It looks like Dan the Man's going to try and get through if he can on the middle of the pair of them. Side by side, Jack Hickey and Glock, and they make slight contact. That's not what he needed, because now the Williams makes contact with Jack. And Jack Hickey is crucially behind his title rival, but just about ahead of Phil Bardwell. Phil Bardwell needs to be careful not to make any silly move here. Of course, Phil Bardwell once famously lost Fishy the championship in TGP1. He does not want to do the same again with Jack Hickey, but Phil fantastically up into P3. Dan the Man will be gutted to be down in 5th, and Owen Quemby is at the very rear of the field again. We suspect all drivers will pit around laps sort of 6 to 13. Matt Tibbles already with a time penalty in this race, not what he needed if he was to try and get back to winning race. But Jack Hickey cushy now, starting to clear Phil Bardwell behind him, and can start to chase down Glock for the lead of this race. Tibbos is out. We've got a casualty already. Matt Tibbos out of this race, and we've got a virtual safety car. So what do the drivers do now? Who's going to dive into the pits? Surely Jack Hickey has to react to whatever Glock does. Glock comes in.
Alistair, 4 leaders.
Jack also comes into the pit lane. They're all coming in. They're all diving in. Dan the Man chooses to stay out. The leading 4 have all chosen to come in. Aiden stays out. Dan the Man stays out. Surely Alistair has reacted to those at the front. Let's see what happens as Phil comes in and may hold up the has of Glock. But it's not meant. Jack Hickey got damaged. Jack Hickey looks like he may still be stuck in the pits. No, he's got going again. A bit of a lag there. The VSC remains out there. But these drivers have now got a long way to go on these tyres to the very end. They've all opted to go for the medium rubber. Roy has gone to the soft tyres, unless his tyres are yet to be changed. But Roy now has to do 17 laps on those softs. Maybe he'll be having for another safety car later in this race.
I can confirm there was wing damage.
Well, Dan the Man, Aiden have both chosen to stay out. Ollie is somehow in P3. Jack Pearson's up to 4th. Cliffy in 5th. The VSC is out for so long that Dan and Aiden may choose to come in next time round and serve their VSC. But I believe it's about to end now. It's about to go green any moment. And there we go. Drive-through penalty for me. Not the Music DGB series. We've got Ollie Hart and Jack Pearson going very wide. Well, Owen, if you don't want to do the crime, don't do the time. Whatever it is. Owen's out the race. Owen's crashed. And is that going to cause a safety car or another VSC? Not what Owen needed. Looks like Owen's lost it in the final sector. He is out of this race. Does not score anything. But as they say, if you don't want the time, don't do the crime. Well, as they say, don't want the time, don't do the crime. Well, we've got a race on now, haven't we? Dan the Man leads 14 seconds. Well, I mean, to be fair to Owen, you don't want the time, don't do the crime. The yellow flags are still out there in the final sector. Mayor Cranby. Let's go on board of court. Let's see if he's all over the road. Well, if you can't do the crime, don't do the time. Let's go back to the front now. Cliffy, you know what I mean. If you don't want to drive through, don't be a poo. And Quenby, unfortunately for him. Oh, Dan the Man's got a time penalty, as does Jack Pearson. So Aidan Griffin's looking pretty sweet in P2. Cliffy all over the back of Ollie. Can he get himself into P4? Glocks in clean air. Jack Hickey, crucially, also with no cars in between him. CJ getting very close to Phil Bardwell. Phil Bardwell and CJ go back to the old days. Back when they were 30 years ago.
Your fastest lap was, what, 5:10? It was a 5:15.
Well, Dan the Man leading this race. Can Cliffy get through on Ollie? Finally, Glock is the fastest man on track at 1:17.3 to now set the message to the drivers in front who have stayed out. Cliffy up the inside on Ollie, should get the position here, but Ollie will fight it back. These two are still side by side. Ollie gives them just about enough room, but runs wide. And now the McLarens join the scrap Kieran too. Can Cliffy finally get through on the Alpha Tauri? Look how close these two are. Ollie will try to squeeze Cliffy out here, but Cliffy just about has the track position and it takes the place. A brilliant move, and now the McLaren will look to get through as well. Up on the inside, will he find the room to get the move done? Looks like he might actually do just that. Not quite. Ollie Hart holds on to P5 for now. But that was some good racing for 3rd, 4th and 5th. Cena and Jake are both disconnected from this race, so Jack Hickey and Glock will have no problem with that. CJH is now in a net P3. Could he be on for his first podium in quite some time? His last podium came back at the British Grand Prix when Phil Bardwell won the race somehow, so God knows how that happened. Kieran and Ollie side by side for P5 and P6. Crucially, how long will these drivers at the front choose to stay out? Will they just wait for another chance with another VSC or safety car? Of course, another VSC or safety car gives them, theoretically, the same pit stop duration as those who pitted earlier on, and of course would have fresher tyres to go to the end of this race. The McLaren driver Kieran up the inside of Ollie. Not too hard, unless Ollie can brake later and get him back on the inside of the turn 1. The McLaren driver should be through into P5. Good move from Kieran. CJH and Phil Bardwell fighting for P9 and P10, fighting for what will be P3 and P4 once the drivers have all made their stops in front. But Phil Bardwell might taking candy from a baby. He's through on CJH. We've got 2 retirements in this race. Matt Tilbos and Owen Cranby. Owen Cranby famously did the crime, so got the time. If you don't want a penalty, don't speed under the VSC. You know, these things happen in Formula 1. Jack Pearson with another time penalty in this race. What a surprise. Alistair Bain will fancy his chances to try and get a position, and Alistair Bain with a time penalty. Alistair Bain, unfortunately for him, might find it hard now to get a penalty. CJH runs wide. We've got a yellow flag in the middle sector. Looks like Mr. Chiapelli's gone off. He's kept it facing the right way round though. Does he have damage on that Mercedes? It's hard to tell with the camera angles that we're getting. Looks like he does indeed have damage. He'll be straight back into the pit lane. Let's hope for his sake that Cian doesn't dive into the pits. His AI car. Ollie Hart is out of this race. The yellow flag in sector 3. I don't think it should be any sort of penalty. Safety car. We've now got 3 cars out of this race, so almost everyone's going to score a point. And of course, points down to the top 14 in this race. Cliffy's caught Jack, and at the worst possible time in the middle section, the tight and twisty middle sector where it's so hard to make a pass. Cliffy has caught Jack at that very point, and will almost certainly have to spend another half a minute looking at the rear of that McLaren Manatee. 14th position, trying to fight court. Those two fighting for 13th and 14th. They won't be fighting for 13th and 14th in a month's time when GT Sport returns. Jack Pearson and Cliffy fighting for 3rd and 4th on the road here. Cliffy so much quicker. Can he finally get through on the McLaren driver? Indeed he does. Jack now down to 4th and will defend from his teammate Kieran, who's in 5th. Dan the man has already pulled 3 seconds over Aiden, of course, down carrying a 3-second time penalty. Now the distance ahead of his teammate. CJH and Phil still fighting for what is the final spot on the podium as things stand. It's been a very good race from Phil Bardwell, starting to finally find his feet now that he's turned traction control completely off. Of course, a shaky start to begin with, as you would expect, getting used to the system no longer being in use, but Phil Bardwell gradually, very cautiously, getting up to speed, but now he's under attack from CJH, who will go down the inside, up into a position he goes. Phil Bardwell left to settle for P8 there as the Alfa Romeo finds a beautiful, nice tempo to go through on the Williams driver. Cliffy's now back behind Jack Pearson, so I'm not quite sure how Jack got back through, possibly on the long straight down to turn 1, so maybe Cliffy passed Jack at the worst possible point, finally getting through, only to lose it with Jack getting DRS on the long run down to turn 1. But Jack, look how much he is struggling on those 7-lap old soft tyres. Cliffy trying to find a way through, but the McLaren driver is doing a very good job of keeping him behind. Cliffy, of course, on the medium tyres himself, so he will pit for softs a little later on in this race. He'll want to clear Jack as soon as he can. Jack this time will not have the DRS. Let's see what's going on back there. We've got Kieran Manatee. Alistair's to pick up a 2nd time penalty in this race, and now he has 6 seconds in total. Dan the man with the 5 seconds for serving in the pit lane. So it looks like Haz are on for a very good point to all this thing stands. Alfa Romeo may drop out of that fight. Looks like it will be between Haz and Red Bull at the moment. So Jack Hickey then has made his start. Phil Bardwell and CJH still fighting. These two have been tussling all race. Great battle we've seen between the pair of them. CJH back through into P5, but Phil will want to come straight back at him. He'll now have a 2nd dice of the cherry to try and get back through on the Alfa Romeo. They've swapped positions. A 2nd bite of the cherry, yeah. Can Phil get through? They almost bang wheels. Needs to be careful not to make contact, because that would almost certainly spin round the Williams driver. But Phil Bardwell left to settle for 6th at the moment. Jack Hickey is rejoined behind Glock, having now served his pit stop in this race. We've got Aiden all over Alistair. Surely Alistair will jump out of the way to allow his teammate to go through. Aiden with quicker tyres and not carrying any time penalties in this race. Aiden can seriously gain points on the likes of Dan and Alistair and Cliffy, who all carry time penalties in this race that are ahead of Aiden at the moment. We're not even half distance through yet. Fucking hell. Well, currently everyone's favourite driver, Cena, down in 14th. Final points position. As Aiden, as we suspected, let through on his younger brother. Phil again dicing with CJH, and this time getting back through, but they're still side by side. We're going to have a great thumbnail, I think, this week. So Phil Bargewell, be sure to get your thumbnail after this race, so I have something to use. As here comes the Red Bull of Aiden to join this scrap. Aiden needs to take his time here. He's got fresher tyres. Doesn't need to risk anything silly as the Alfa Romeo almost loses the back end of that car, and Phil Bargewell just about holds on to P5 as Aiden now wants to get through on these two, but if he's not careful, he could get up damage, and that could allow Alistair to get through on him once again. Court still fighting with Manatee at the back, getting ready for their battles in 2 months' time as CJH now picks up a 3-second time penalty, which is exactly what Aiden wanted to see. And once again, Jack Hickey has clawed a second back on Glock. Jack Hickey is setting some serious pace at the moment. The gap is down to 1.2 seconds. If Jack Hickey wins this race, the gap would increase to 22 points in the championship. If he fails to win, it could go down to 8 if he is second only behind Glock. But here comes CJH. He'll get DRS, slipstream, everything he needs from Phil Bargewell. In fact, is he too far behind? Because he doesn't seem to be using DRS. He is now. Aiden Griffiths will want to get through on CJH. Phil Bargewell using every bit of this Mexican track. Aiden not quite close enough, I don't think, to make a move. But is CJH close enough to make a move on Phil Bargewell? Brace a bit later, maybe a bit too late. And this now gives Aiden the chance to try and get through on the Alfa Romeo in the second DRS zone of this circuit. Of course, there are 3 DRS zones, I believe, around this track, so plenty to play for. As here comes Aiden on the inside of CJH, very reminiscent of when Verstappen, Ricciardo and Vettel all got close a few years back at Mexico. Alistair Bain sticking with these cars. Jack Pearson's a further 5 seconds back in P9. Jack Hickey remains a second adrift of Cliffy. Of course, Cliffy still needs to make a stop in this race. He'll be praying that a safety car or VSC comes out, because that would put him on the soft tyres to the end and would get a very cheap pit stop. Phil Bargewell is about 15 seconds adrift of Cliffy. I suspect Cliffy might actually come out just ahead of Jack in P9 at the moment. So he's going to want to stay out for as long as he can to try and keep building the gap as those behind dice for positions. CJH is 8/10 adrift of Phil Bargewell, just about within DRS zone, which will allow him to keep clear of Aiden Griffiths, who's clearly the faster driver. CJH made a mistake at the final corner, and Aiden Griffiths, he takes the position. CJH, huge problem there, and has he got damage? Because now Alistair is attacking the Alfa Romeo. Can Alistair get through? He takes P7, and Aiden will try to maybe give his brother the slipstream behind. Alistair ducks in behind his second Red Bull, and he's taken the position, but will CJH break later? He can't. Alistair takes P7, a great move from the Red Bulls. They're up to 6th and 7th now.
Is anyone yet to pit?
Just Cliffy.
Oh, Jack's got a penalty.
Ah, he does, which is, well, Aiden Griffiths can suddenly now has a chance to close that gap potentially. He's a bit far back from the Aston Martin thanks to the battle he's been stuck in with the drivers we're watching now. And Glock's got a 3-second time penalty. And Cliffy's got a 3-second time penalty. So, no surprises who hasn't got a time penalty. That's right, everyone's favourite TGB1 driver, Cena. Cena does not have a time penalty, so it's only Cena, Jake Davis, Manatee, Court and Aiden who are yet to pick up time penalties in this race. I suspect we'll see a similar story in TGB2 tomorrow. Watch Dom Smith win the race despite finishing 7th in Mexico. Live on the YouTube channel with commentary from Manatee and Dan the Man, 2 former TGP1 champions.
I can't believe I got in the pit lane.
Jack Hickey is 3/10 adrift of Glock. These two are fighting for the lead of the race. Dan the Man is now behind both of them. He stayed out a bit longer, didn't quite work out. Of course, these two will have much older tyres than those behind. So will we see Dan the Man come into this race? Can Aiden claw back the gap and maybe snatch a victory? That would be some position if that happened. But you can see those are the black and white flag next to their interval. Shows those who carry time penalties that will be applied at the end of the race. Dan the Man.
6 laps left.
Still 6 laps to go, and Dan the Man, of course, penalty. His penalty is 8 seconds. The rest of the field all have 3 or 6. The leading 3 appear to be the ones in the race for this victory. Aiden Griffiths will want to be in the fight too. He's ahead of Phil Bargewell, but for how long? Only 4/10 clear of the Williams driver. He'll want to try and get within a second or more ahead, so Phil can't come straight back at him down into turn 1, because Aiden has a serious chance of a victory if Glock, Hickey and Dan the Man continue to push hard, continue to give each other pressure and potentially more time penalties to come, but Glock, it looked like he was the fastest man in this championship. He really set the start of this season alight, but Jack Hickey has set a massive statement here in TGB1. The second half of the season, he's won 3 races now in TGB1. Can he make that 4 here in Mexico? He's got a good run on Glock again. Down into turn 1, the gap comes down from 4/10 down to 2, and up the inside he goes. The Aston Martin driver takes the lead from Glock on the run down to turn 1. They're still side by side though. Needs to be careful not to make contact here. Glock fighting him hard. He knows the championship's on the line, and Jack Hickey almost spins round, but Glock's back through into the lead of the race. Dan the Man is in 3rd, and Phil Bardwell and Aidan Grevens are now fighting for 4th and 5th. Not what Aidan needs, because the top 3 are now all fighting and losing each other time.
Alistair, I need you to attack him if you can.
This is amazing.
This is fantastic. We've got Glock and Jack, the championship leaders, 15 points between them, fighting for this championship. Fastest lap, I suspect, will go to Cliffy. Now he's on the fresh soft tyres, so the top 2 shouldn't need to worry about that. Aidan still ahead of Phil for now, but they're still fighting for position. It's hard to pick one battle on this track as Alistair joins that scrap, but we've got to go with the front 3, surely. It's a shame Dan the Man's got an additional 5-second time penalty, because it really could have gone any way at all. But Glock leads by 4/10. How long can he keep the Aston Martin behind? Because you suspect as soon as Jack Hickey makes that move, he will be able to start to pull a gap. Dan the Man is also going to get DRS, just 8/10, now 6/10 behind Jack Hickey, who had a very wobbly final corner, but it might not be enough for him. Phil Bardwell with another time penalty in this race, but Glock holding on to what appears to be a championship slim hope. And look at that, Jack Hickey through on the inside into turn 1. The Aston Martin driver is really excelling in the second half of the season, and he's through into the lead of the Mexican Grand Prix. Can Glock come straight back at him? Unfortunately for him, he sees Jack Hickey's DRS flash open. Jack Hickey can start to pull clear. He rubs it in. The gap is now up to 3/10, and if the Aston Martin can start to pull a gap, he can start to stretch that lead and make sure he's within a second clear of the Haas driver. Jack Hickey, every time we see Glock put down a statement, the Aston Martin responds in absolutely fantastic fashion. And still, this race isn't over. Still 4.5 laps to go. We could still see any of these drivers pick up an additional time penalty, and the championship could be blown wide open. The gap between 1st and 3rd, of course, is 10 points. Suddenly, if we see Jack make an error or drop down to P3 or P4, then suddenly he loses 25 points and ends up with something like 15. So Dan the Man, Jack's going to get DRS from Cena and Jake Davis. This is good news for Jack. He may well have to keep through as Cliffy and Aidan are vying for 5th and 6th. I really need picture-in-picture in here. There's so many battles on the track. This is excellent racing here in TGP1. Glock closing on Jack Hickey. That's Dan the Man closing on him. We've got Aidan, Alistair, Kieran all fighting with Cliffy and Phil for P4. Can Jack Hickey hold on? He does. The DRS came into play. The Aston Martin keeps hold for now, but he's not going to get such luck next time round. Cliffy is through into P4 on Phil Bardwell. Let's go back to the front because Glock continues to harass Jack Hickey. And Jack Hickey again with that fortunate bit of luck to hold DRS in the first sector. Not what they needed. Aidan Griffiths is now all over Phil Bardwell. He needs to get through. Of course, Aidan does not have a time penalty, but you suspect Cliffy might now start to build a gap on those fresh tyres. And who knows, maybe Cliffy can pull the 10 seconds on Jack and Glock to win this race if the other ones in front get another time penalty. Just outside the points is everyone's favourite driver in TGB1, Cena, P15 at the moment, trying to hunt down Jake for 14th. The top 3, almost a second covers them. Almost a second covers 5th, down into 8th. Kieran now ahead of Alistair. Kieran attacking Phil Bardwell. I'm starting to lose my voice again. This is absolutely brilliant racing. Cliffy has just taken a second out of the leading 3. He's hunting them down. There's still 3 more laps to go in this race. And you can see Dan the Man very twisty around the final corner. He loses the time that he didn't need to lose because now he's a bit too far back to make any sort of attempt to get through on Glock into turn 1. But Jack Hickey using his ERS very, very wisely. You can see the Glock only has 17% late. Jack Hickey only has 9% left himself. It's Dan the Man who has the most actually out of all 3 of them. But Jack Hickey holding on. That gap is 4/10. Need to be so careful not to cut another corner, track extend in any sort of place, and find yourself with a massive time penalty. I suspect the Red Bulls will be hoping that Jack Hickey can hold on to win this race, because if they can, the Red Bulls will not lose much deficit to Haas again, and the Red Bulls will continue to lead the Constructors' Championship after tonight, with both Alfa Romeos having a pretty poor night. And of course John is not here because he's at work, apparently. So unable to make tonight's races. Kieran all over Alistair for P7. Can the McLaren driver get what would be his best result of the season? It's been some drive from the McLaren driver, and look how much more confident he is on those soft tyres. He did the alternate strategy, and he needs to clear Alistair as soon as he quickly can, because look how much quicker he is. Alistair really struggling out there. Pitted early, of course, on the opening laps when the VSC came out. Will he go for a move on the inside? He can't quite do it there, not quite close enough. As Phil continues to stick with Aiden. Aiden is not going to be a threat for this race win. No chance of Aiden winning this now, so he's just about trying to hold on to P5. I don't think he'll get fourth either, unless Cliffy or any of the leading trio make a mistake. But Dan the man's closer to Glock than Glock is to Jack Hickey. The front three, just 6/10 covers all of them as they come now onto the penultimate lap of this race. And Jack Hickey without DRS, Glock and Dan the man have that advantage that his rival does not have. But when can Glock make the move? He needs to be careful. He needs to start saving that ERS. Leave it for the final part of the lap. This is some title fight, isn't it? We've got Kieran still right behind Alistair, who did get DRS from Jake ahead of him. Phil Bardwell, is he going to go for a move on Aiden? Into this tight and twisty chicane, you want to be ahead of the car. In this part of the track, Phil almost bangs the back of that Red Bull, but Aiden parks it very smartly, very wisely, and makes sure that his Red Bull is ahead of the Williams as they go through this tight middle sector.
Alistair, I can't back off much more. Like, if you need DRS, you need to speed up.
So it appears like Aiden is slowing the pace to allow Alistair to take the DRS, but Alistair now 1.2 behind Phil. Alistair really struggling with those tyres. He's now actually back within DRS again, but Kieran is now the closest he's been. 2/10 of the gap. He'll surely go for some move into turn one. The drivers now start their final lap of the race, and you can see Dan hunting down Glock. Glock hunting down Jack Hickey. This is for the championship. There's 15 points between these two. Jack Hickey and Glock are having some season. Who's going to be leading it after tonight? Who's going to be the Mexican Grand Prix winner? Glock round the outside, Jack Hickey almost going side by side. Can the Aston Martin hang it on? The two of them need to be so careful. Jack almost has to cut the grass, and Dan almost taps the back of Glock. This is some race. 4/10 covers the top three of the championship here in TGP1. It's Glock still now going for position round the outside of Jack Hickey. Can he get through? He can. Glock takes the lead of the race again, but he's gone wide, and Jack Hickey will look to go through, but Dan the man takes P2 from him. Unbelievable scenes, and that should surely give Glock the victory in this race. Phil Bardwell's now back through on Aiden for P5. Further back, Kieran is still behind Alistair, but for how long? Because Kieran is now back through on Alistair, so he's made the position. But look at this, Glock is set to win this race. What a crucial win it will be for him. Unfortunately, Dan the man has an extra 5-second time penalty, so Jack will still get P2. But is Dan the man going to go for it? On the inside, he thinks about it. Couldn't quite make it stick, but he's put Glock under some sort of pressure. Is he out of line for the final couple of corners on this track? We've got a yellow flag in the middle sector. Has Cliffy made a mistake maybe? Glock's going to win this race, but by about 1/10 of a second. Dan the man and Jack Hickey are all within 5/10 of one another, but it's Glock that wins in Mexico. Jack Hickey is second. It's going to be Dan the man third. It's enough to be on the podium position at least. Cliffy's going to take fourth. Aiden Griffiths is just behind Phil Bardwell. The gap's 2/10. The gap's 1/10. It's not going to be enough. Phil takes P5 on the road, which becomes P7 as Aiden jumps onto fourth.
Cliffy ran out of fuel.
Cliffy ran out of fuel. I don't believe it. CJH, can he get Manatee for P11? They're fighting for 11th and 12th. What?
Have a look at this car.
Yeah, let's have a look at. Oh, he's missing a front wing. So Manatee through into P11, and well, there you go. And the champagne is out for the leading three: Glock, Jack Hickey, and Dan the man. I'm not quite sure who got fastest lap, but if it wasn't Glock or Jack, the lead is back down to 8 points of a second, as it was before tonight.
CJ Leclerc.
Ah.
It was.
Could have had one on the podium tonight. Two people will be.
Well, it was 40 points for Red Bull. It was 43 for Haas, so Haas have closed the gap by 3 points. Cliffy takes yet another Driver of the Day award for coming through from the back of the grid to finish what was P6 in the end. Running out of fuel, unfortunately. But Glock and Jack Hickey, what a title fight we have here in TGP1. Absolutely incredible. Jack Hickey and Glock, you can barely separate the two of them. They are matched so equally come race day. And the championship lead is exactly as it was before tonight. 8 points is the difference, with just 6 races to go. What a season we're having here. Who needs Softy? Well, his 2 kids do. The 2 kids need Softy. Softy will be paying for their education, I'm sure. 1:16.3 was the fastest lap from CJH, a full second quicker than what Glock and Jack Hickey were able to achieve. But it was Alistair who finished 8th in the end. Court moved up to P9. It was Jack Pearson in the dizzy heights of P10. Manatee finished an excellent 11th ahead of CJH, who didn't have a front wing, but did have the fastest lap of the race. Luca was 13th, and Jake Davis, who wasn't there all race, finished P14. Just outside of that, we had Cena, Ollie, Owen, and Tibbs. And of course, Owen has learned a valuable lesson today. If you don't want the time, don't do the crime.
You could fuck off.
Well, what a night it's been here in TGB1. The championship lead remains 8 points. Both championships are wide open. What a night it's been. Join us next week for Brazil and Canada. Good night.
Ooh.